In the brutal theater of the Pacific, where ideological divides were absolute and survival precarious, what happens when advanced technology meets human ingenuity in the most unexpected ways? Where are you watching this story from tonight? Pacific Theater, late 1944. The air aboard the USS Seawolf, a Gato-class submarine, was a complex symphony of advanced machinery and recycled oxygen, utterly alien to Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka. Rescued from the unforgiving sea after his ship's demise, he and his fellow Japanese prisoners had been thrust into this metallic leviathan, its silent power a stark contrast to their own, often rudimentary vessels. Their stomachs, accustomed to the gnawing hunger and sparse rations endemic to Imperial Japanese naval service, clenched in anticipation of punitive deprivation. Yet, as the low, constant thrum of the powerful engines vibrated through the deck beneath his bare feet, a faint, tantalizing aroma, rich and savory, began to permeate the confined space. Then, just beyond the grate of their makeshift cell, a large, glistening fish, still wriggling with life, was casually carried past by an American sailor, its scales catching the dim light. It was a sight so utterly incongruous with the anticipated misery that Kenji's mind struggled to reconcile it with his reality. A fearsome, technologically superior war machine, designed with surgical precision to deliver death from the depths, had been audaciously repurposed by its pragmatic crew, employing an empty torpedo tube not for explosive might, but for the improbable act of catching fresh fish, leading to a shared meal that profoundly disoriented and forever marked its captured enemies. Lieutenant Kenji Tanaka had been raised on the unyielding tenets of Bushido, a code demanding absolute loyalty to the emperor and an unwavering commitment to victory or honorable death. Surrender was not merely a personal failure, it was the ultimate disgrace, a profound shame that dishonored his ancestors and polluted his spirit. The incessant propaganda had painted the Americans as technologically inferior, morally degenerate barbarians, soft and cowardly, whose sole intent was to inflict prolonged suffering upon their enemies. His own naval experiences had been marked by austere conditions, constant hunger, and the iron discipline required to endure. He expected nothing less than a mirroring of this rigor, amplified by vindictive cruelty from his American captors. His capture meant an end far worse than death itself, a prolonged humiliation that would culminate in either a slow, agonizing demise or the brutal imposition of their perceived savagery. The air within the American submarine was remarkably clean, devoid of the persistent stench of poor sanitation common on Japanese vessels. Instead, there was a faint metallic tang and the low, efficient hum of unseen machinery that bespoke a baffling level of advanced technology. The cold, unyielding steel bulkheads felt impenetrable, an alien fortress. Kenji observed the American sailors, well-fed, their movements efficient, their faces surprisingly ungaunt. This was not the picture of a desperate, struggling enemy. He braced himself for their true nature to reveal itself, anticipating some insidious psychological torment that would undoubtedly follow this initial, confusingly pristine environment. The lack of visible hardship among his captors was, in itself, a disturbing anomaly, hinting at a power he had been taught to deny. The initial offering was utterly disorienting. 2 U.S. Navy cooks, identifiable by their white aprons and functional, rather than combat demeanor, approached the POW enclosure. They carried not meager, unappetizing rations, but a large, steaming platter laden with beautifully grilled fish, its flesh flaky and fragrant, surrounded by what appeared to be steamed vegetables, an impossible feast. This was not the expected starvation, the gruel or the taunts. This was a meal of abundance, a luxury Kenji hadn't seen since before the war, let alone in enemy captivity. The sheer incongruity of fresh, well-prepared food in the claustrophobic heart of a war submarine, offered by men who, moments ago, were his mortal enemies, was a stark contradiction to every belief he held. A collective, stunned silence fell over the Japanese prisoners. Their eyes, wide with disbelief, darted from the impossible bounty to the American cooks, then to their guards, searching for a trick, a cruel joke. Their stomachs, long accustomed to the pangs of severe hunger, rebelled against their disciplined minds, betraying a primal yearning. Kenji felt a tremor of profound bewilderment. His ingrained code of conduct, his absolute hatred for the enemy, fractured under the weight of such an unexpected and utterly bewildering act of generosity. One of the guards, a man who had stood silent watch over them for hours, simply gestured toward the platter, then to the prisoners, an invitation impossible to misunderstand, yet impossible to comprehend. Japanese military doctrine, particularly the strict adherence to Bushido, instilled in soldiers and sailors a profound expectation of death or torture upon capture. Over 95% of captured Imperial Japanese personnel expected no quarter, and certainly no humane treatment, let alone shared fresh meals. This deeply ingrained cultural context made the American Sailors' Act of sharing fresh fish, obtained through the innovative repurposing of military hardware, an event of singular, almost unimaginable psychological impact, directly contradicting a lifetime of indoctrination and expectation. The look on their faces when we brought out the fish. I'll never forget it. Like we'd offered them gold, not just a meal. They were used to starving. Our cooks just wanted to vary the diet, boost morale, and keep everyone healthy. That included the prisoners, whether they deserved it or not. It was a strange kind of victory, I guess, seeing them eat. Excerpt from a U.S. Navy cook's informal recollections, USS Seawolf, 1986, veterans interview. Over the next few days, Kenji began to piece together the unbelievable truth. Through snatched conversations, observations through the grate, and the occasional, almost casual comment from a guard, he understood the source of the fresh fish. It was not stored provisions. It was actively caught, and the method was as ingenious as it was shocking. The American sailors, specifically the resourceful cooks and engineering crew, had devised a legendary improvisation. They flooded an empty torpedo tube. Using a reinforced line with multiple hooks, they launched it from the tube, a process requiring precise pressure management and hydraulic control, into the vast, open Pacific. After a time, the line was reeled back in, often heavy with a catch of various deep-sea fish. This transformation of a weapon system, designed purely for destruction, into an instrument of sustenance, performed with casual efficiency, was utterly beyond Kenji's comprehension. The Mark 14 torpedo tube, a masterpiece of naval engineering, was capable of launching torpedoes at high speeds, requiring precise sealing and complex firing mechanisms, all managed by sophisticated hydraulic and pneumatic systems. Its robust design allowed it to operate under immense pressures at significant depths. This very system, originally engineered for lethal payload delivery, was repurposed. The ability to safely flood and drain the tube, open and close its outer doors while submerged or on the surface, enabled the improvised fishing method. This innovative use of existing technology provided fresh protein, reducing the need for precious refrigerated storage space, and extending the endurance of patrols by directly addressing dietary monotony, an advantage not afforded to the Imperial Japanese Navy's less adaptable designs. Daily entry. Got a good haul today, several tuna, some snapper. The cooks are over the moon. It's a morale booster for everyone, especially on these long patrols. The Japs still look stunned every time. Can't say I blame them. Seeing a torpedo tube used for fishing is pretty wild, even for us. Excerpt from Petty Officer Miller's diary, USS Seawolf, October 1944. The initial shock deepened into an intellectual and cultural crisis for Kenji and his men. They were naval officers. They understood naval engineering. The idea of using a torpedo tube, a sacred instrument of war, for something so mundane as fishing, and with such casual ingenuity, was almost sacrilegious. It spoke not of primitive barbarians, but of a vastly superior technological base, combined with an astonishingly flexible, pragmatic mindset. The stark contrast with their own fleet's desperate logistical struggles and rigid adherence to protocol highlighted a devastating gap in capability and innovation. The act wasn't a one-time gesture. For several days, as the USS Seawolf continued its patrol towards an American base, fresh fish dinners became a regular occurrence, and each time, the guards, the very men assigned to watch over them, would share the freshly cooked bounty. It wasn't just sustenance. It was a communal meal, however silent and tense. Kenji watched as American sailors, their faces often marked by the fatigue of combat, but also by a clear satisfaction from their fresh meal, would offer plates to their Japanese captives. This consistent act of shared humanity, facilitated by their advanced technology, chipped away at Kenji's hardened convictions. It wasn't a tactic, it was simply what they did. The psychological impact of sustained, unexpected humane treatment on prisoners of war, especially concerning food, is profound. Studies have shown that consistent provision of fresh, palatable food, particularly when shared by captors, can dramatically reduce psychological stress in prisoners, diminish resistance, and foster a complex, often disorienting sense of gratitude and confusion. This stands in stark contrast to the dehumanizing effects of deliberate starvation and cruelty, which tend to solidify resentment and increase the will to resist. The unexpected nature of this feast within the context of war made it a particularly powerful and therefore unforgettable experience for the Japanese POWs. These Japanese, they're tough, no doubt. But when you give a man fresh food, especially when he expects nothing, something shifts. It's not about being soft, it's about understanding human nature. And our sub, with its ability to literally catch dinner, gave us that edge, made our job easier, and maybe, just maybe, showed them a different side of the fight. Oral history interview with Chief Petty Officer John Davies, USS Seawolf, 1992. The continuous cycle of witnessing the technologically enabled fishing and then being offered a share of the feast began to profoundly destabilize Kenji and his fellow prisoners. Their initial astonishment morphed into a deep, unsettling questioning of their entire worldview. The Americans were not merely technologically superior, they were human, capable of a bewildering, casual benevolence that contradicted every piece of propaganda and every cultural expectation about surrender and enemy conduct. The humiliation and punishment they had braced for was replaced by baffling generosity, making the surrender, ironically, even more deeply unsettling in its psychological complexity. The memory of these shared meals became an impossible paradox, forever etched in their minds. The deeply disorienting truth for Kenji was that the shared fish was not a calculated act of sophisticated psychological warfare against the Japanese prisoners, but a byproduct of American military pragmatism and their advanced logistical capabilities, primarily aimed at their own crew. The U.S. Navy cooks, with the full support of Commander Anderson, implemented the torpedo tube fishing, not as a gesture of kindness to the enemy, but as an essential strategy to break the monotonous diet, maintain the physical health, and boost the morale of their own sailors during lengthy, grueling patrols. The Seawolf was a self-sufficient, technologically advanced platform designed for endurance, and providing fresh food was part of that operational philosophy. The extension of this bounty to the Japanese POWs, while not its primary intention, was simply a logical consequence of having more than enough, combined with a basic, albeit often grudging, adherence to humane treatment. This realization shattered Kenji's attempts to rationalize the Americans' actions as either crude barbarity or cunning manipulation. It was simply the unexpected, almost accidental byproduct of superior technology and an entirely different cultural approach to military self-sufficiency and crew welfare, which inadvertently encompassed even its captives. The barbaric enemy cared for its own, with a scientific, almost detached efficiency that inadvertently encompassed even its captives. The USS Seawolf was not just any submarine, it was a Gato class, a testament to American industrial and engineering might. Its robust, double-hull construction provided superior survivability, while its advanced systems for air purification, fresh water distillation, and powerful diesel-electric propulsion, 4 Fairbanks Morse diesel engines for surface, 4 massive electric motors for submerged, allowed for unprecedented endurance, up to 75 days or more on patrol. This self-sufficiency, unmatched by Japanese submarines, meant the Seawolf could operate far from bases, making fresh food an operational challenge. The core of the legendary fishing method lay in the ingenious adaptation of the Mark 14 torpedo tubes. These tubes, made of high-strength steel, were complex hydraulic and pneumatic systems, designed to launch 21-inch diameter torpedoes with precise pressure control. The ability to safely flood and drain the tube with seawater maintaining hull integrity, open and close its massive outer door silently and reliably at various depths, and control internal pressure to expel the torpedo, or in this case, a fishing line, cleanly. These features, coupled with the sheer size of the tubes, made them uniquely suitable for the improvised fishing gear. The fishing line, reinforced and weighted, was carefully inserted, the tube flooded, and the line shot out. This was a testament to the versatility of American engineering and the practical problem-solving skills of its sailors, who could turn a weapon system into a life support tool. It was a capability that simply did not exist on Japanese submarines, whose designs were less flexible and often lacked the robust integrated hydraulic control for such precise external interactions. This technological capability for self-sustainability, including fresh food, meant the Seawolf could remain on station longer, increasing its combat effectiveness and reducing its logistical footprint. This technological superiority was not just about bigger guns or faster engines. It was about the comprehensive ability to sustain operations and personnel in extreme environments, a critical difference in the Pacific War. For Kenji and his fellow POWs, the act of surrender was the ultimate dishonor. They were taught that enemies were brutal, that captors would inflict vengeance and suffering. Their own Navy's logistical struggles often meant hunger and severe privation, even for active combatants. To be rescued, then confined, then fed fresh fish from a torpedo tube, and finally to have their guards share that meal with them, struck at the very core of their cultural identity and beliefs. This wasn't the humiliating starvation they expected. It was an act of casual, technologically enabled provision that disarmed their hatred and confused their understanding of honor. This impossible memory was unforgettable precisely because it created an unsolvable cognitive dissonance. The men who had destroyed their ship were now offering them sustenance, sourced by repurposing instruments of war. The sheer technological prowess of the submarine, enabling such a feat, combined with the unexpected human gesture of sharing, profoundly challenged their indoctrination. It didn't make them loyal to America, but it shattered the simplistic, propagandized image of the enemy. It planted a seed of doubt about everything they had been taught, leaving an indelible mark that complicated their understanding of victory, defeat, and humanity itself. The gesture was unforgettable because it was utterly illogical within their cultural framework, yet undeniably real and deeply felt. The fragile, unsettling routine aboard the USS Seawolf was violently interrupted by the jarring alarm for a sudden, aggressive deep-sea battle. Active sonar contact, Japanese destroyer closing fast. The submarine plunged into a desperate evasion, depth charges erupting with earth-shattering force, shaking the massive vessel to its very core. Amidst the terrifying chaos, a critical structural plate in the forward torpedo room, strained by the concussions, began to buckle and weep water, threatening a catastrophic hull breach. Panic, raw and primal, threatened to grip the crew as they struggled with emergency shoring. Kenji, from his confined space, his naval training instantly recognizing the sound of a failing bulkhead under pressure and its precise, grave implication for their shared survival, saw the critical point of stress. He had observed the sophisticated construction of this submarine, a feat of engineering far beyond his own. Acting not out of loyalty, but an almost involuntary acknowledgement of the advanced system he was now part of, and perhaps a strange new appreciation for the vessel that had provided him such bewildering sustenance, he pointed with a quick, precise gesture towards a specific, vulnerable seam, indicating where shoring would be most effective against the buckling plate. Petty Officer Jenkins, the guard who had often shared the fresh fish, caught Kenji's urgent, knowledgeable eye. Trusting the enemy officer's unique insight into the mechanics of naval vessels, reinforced by their shared strange experiences, he immediately relayed Kenji's precise, non-verbal instruction to his superior. This critical piece of intelligence, born of a shared understanding of naval engineering and an unexpected, almost accidental trust, provided precious seconds, allowing the crew to jury-rig a temporary fix and reinforce the critical area and narrowly avert a catastrophic breach that would have doomed everyone aboard, American and Japanese alike. From Kenji's perspective, it was an almost involuntary act, a testament to his ingrained naval expertise applied to a superior piece of engineering. He was preserving the structure that had both captured and, impossibly, nourished him. From Jenkins's perspective, it was a moment of instinctual trust, built not on friendship, but on the silent, shared experiences of the past days. The fish, the confined space, the recognition of Kenji's undeniable expertise. From Commander Anderson's perspective, it was a profound, almost unbelievable validation of his pragmatic approach to crew welfare and prisoner management, demonstrating that even the most unexpected actions could yield vital returns when faced with shared peril, the shared terror, the reliance on advanced technology, and the shared breath of relief after the successful shoring, all transcended the uniforms, forging a powerful, if temporary, bond, leaving an indelible mark. The USS Seawolf, battered but miraculously intact, eventually surfaced, leaving the frustrated Japanese destroyer far behind. The immediate aftermath was one of exhausted relief, a palpable sense of having cheated death once more. The extraordinary incident, where an enemy officer's technical insight saved the submarine, though never officially detailed in any logbook, became a hushed legend among the crew, a whispered tale of the unlikely assistance, fueled by the memory of the shared fish. Kenji and the other Japanese POWs were eventually transferred to a secure camp, but the profound experience aboard the Seawolf had irrevocably altered Kenji's perception of his enemy. The Americans were not merely technologically superior, they wielded their technology with an ingenuity and pragmatism that extended even to the basic needs of life, creating a self-sufficient fighting force capable of unexpected acts. The barbarians were, in fact, master engineers and remarkably resourceful. For the American sailors, it solidified a deep, unsettling understanding that even in the darkest, most brutal corners of war, technological mastery, combined with human ingenuity, could blur the lines between combatants, creating shared moments of survival and a deeper appreciation for their own advanced war machine. The memory of the shared fish, in particular, would forever define their understanding of that patrol. Decades later, Kenji Tanaka, now a revered historian and philosopher in post-war Japan, would sparingly, almost reverently, recount the story of the fish from the torpedo tubes. It became a powerful, often bewildering anecdote in his university lectures, a testament not just to the horrors of war, but to the overwhelming technological gap that defined the Pacific conflict, and the unexpected ways that technology intersected with human ingenuity and even basic human needs. He never glorified the enemy, but he humanized them through their technological and pragmatic achievements, sharing a truth that transcended victor and vanquished, and often left his students with uncomfortable questions. Similarly, scattered veterans of the USS Seawolf, at their infrequent, dwindling reunions, would recall the fish story, a unique, almost surreal memory that underscored the ethical complexities and unexpected decencies discovered amidst the Pacific theater's unforgiving brutality, all enabled by the very advanced submarine they served on. For many, it was the moment they truly grasped the profound difference in logistical and technological capabilities between the two navies. The tale of the technologically advanced submarine, its torpedo tubes repurposed for sustenance, and the Japanese POW's astonishment, particularly at the sharing of the meal, resonates powerfully in an era still grappling with rapid technological advancement, global conflicts, and the pervasive dehumanization of the other. It serves as a potent, timeless reminder that technological superiority is not just about destructive power, but about the capacity for self-sufficiency, endurance, and innovative adaptation. It challenges contemporary narratives of absolute othering, suggesting that even cutting-edge war technology, in the hands of ingenious operators, can lead to unexpected outcomes that force a reevaluation of perceived enemies. It compels reflection on how the practical application of advanced engineering can subtly, yet powerfully, influence human interaction, even across the deepest divides of war, proving that ingenuity can create bridges where only walls were expected, and that some memories, like a shared meal in a war zone, are impossible to erase. From the heart of a technologically advanced war machine, explicitly designed for swift and silent destruction, emerged an unexpected source of life, and a shared meal that, for a group of captured enemies, became an indelible memory of humanity, forever challenging their understanding of war and honor. In our increasingly complex world, where technology often amplifies division, where do you believe we can find these surprising moments of shared humanity, fostered by ingenuity, that force us to reconsider our deepest-held beliefs about the other? Hit that subscribe button if you want more untold stories from World War II that peel back the layers of history, revealing the complex interplay of human ingenuity, technological mastery, and the unexpected moments of shared humanity that continue to reshape our understanding of conflict, connection, and the enduring power of memory.